video to introduce her. Her name is Patricia Bebia, and I will be sharing now. I hope my
No audio.
no audio. Did you say no audio?
Yes, no audio.
Okay, apologies. I'm gonna reshare. Um, sorry, 1 second. So the slide just disappeared. Okay, found you. So it's not letting me share my audio. Is that a setting on your side? Um, if you can look at that, Lydia, but it's not letting me share my audio. That box is, I'm unable to check that box. Okay, I'm gonna try one last time. It's not letting me share my audio. I don't know why.
Still no audio. No audio. No audio.
Okay, sorry about that. I am unable to check my share sound. So
Do you
if you
want me to
don't,
try? Maybe give me sharing capacity. Let me see if I can share on my end. There's
let's
a
try.
lot open on my computer, but let's hope. I wasn't expecting, but let me just try.
No audio. Still no audio.
Okay. I think we can just do without it.
Yes, I will share this and I will just quickly read your bio and we can go with that. Apologies,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
fine.
know. Technology is not cooperating today. All right. Our next keynote speaker is Patricia Bebia. Patricia is an award-winning filmmaker, media executive, and storyteller. and president of Diamond Plus Media. She co-owns Afro Global Television, Canada's 24-hour Black-owned channel, and directed The Life Coach, winner of 12 international awards. With over 15 TV programs and several magazines to her credit, Patricia has earned global recognition, including the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal and Harry Jerome Award. She champions underrepresented voices through leadership and mentorship. Please make welcome to the virtual stage, Miss Patricia Bebia.
Yeah, thank you so much. And hi, everyone. Good afternoon. And it's such an honor to be here. And I would like to commend and congratulate the organizers of this event. And thank you for doing this. I've been asked to speak about the message and the medium, building inclusive media that moves us forward. And before I go on, I must say, big thank you to an icon, Dr. Wendy Cookie, who just spoke here before me. I really respect the work that you've done, and thank you so much for paving the way for diversity and for all the amazing work that you've done, which we continue to see the benefits of. Now, I have been in the media space now for close to for more than 30 years, because I actually started to host a TV show as a teenager. So when you think about it and I add the years, I'm kind of like, oh my God, I've been doing this for about 3 decades now. And when we speak about the message and the medium, building inclusive media that moves us forward, this is almost like a topic that describes what I've been trying to do all these years. And I must say, as I sit here, I'm reminded of that young woman who, was sitting in front of a TV set once and watching Oprah Winfrey on satellite. And I didn't know what my path was in life then. But, I just felt seen. I felt heard. I felt so inspired. I remember saying aloud, though I thought I was saying it in my head, I want to do that someday. And here I am, today, about 30 years after. I've hosted a daily talk show previously in my country, Nigeria. I've, been involved with, doing all kinds of things, including launching a 24-hour TV channel, producing several magazines, and over 20 titles in our Discover magazine series. And most recently, produced a feature film, The Life Coach, which has won right now 13 international awards from New York to Milan to London, India, and here in Canada and many other places. But when you boil down all these achievements, none matters to me more than why I do what I do. I believe that, stories can heal. I believe that stories should transform. And I believe that the media and all platforms should be used as a tool to make a difference in people's lives. And that's why I'm so excited about, getting up and, doing everything that I do in the media space, because the media is a very important, asset that we have as a society. It actually helps to shape the social consciousness of society, if you think about it critically. And if you look back, there's no social change, no movement that has ever succeeded without the media actually coming behind us. I believe that the media is not just to entertain, but to make us reflect, to make us better people, to make us, to think about each other as family, not, as a different facet or different or something outside of us, and for us to move towards a world that is inclusive, that is reflective of the society in which we live in. And most of all, I believe that media spaces, where everyone, regardless of race, gender, language, or background, feels that they belong, is where we need to move towards. Now, let's talk about the message, because I'm supposed to speak about the message and the medium. The media is like a mirror. When, for instance, you see someone on TV, it calls to a certain part of you. If they look like you, you're most likely going to take what they're saying more seriously, or it's going to affect you in a different way. Now, but for far too long, the mirror has been reflecting a very narrow portion of who we are as a people, as a society. It has muted accents, erased cultures, and distorted truths. And that's why inclusive media is not a buzzword. It is a lifeline. It is not a buzzword. It is a lifeline, because representation is not a favor, it is a right, because stories have the power either to liberate or to limit. And we've seen this happen time and time again. Think of the first time you saw someone look like you, that truly looked like you, either on TV or in a magazine. How did it make you feel? I'm sure you felt lifted. It's something inside of you whispered, yes, I exist. And especially for our young people, imagine what that does to them. Also, now imagine going through life not seeing yourself, or seeing very little of that, or even seeing mostly negative images. And as a person of African descent, when I just came to Canada, most of what I saw on television about the Black community was either poverty, crime, war, or things that were not elevating. And it made me wonder how I could change that narrative. And I remember when I started to take steps towards a TV program, which we eventually got, called Planet Africa on Omni Television. We got a few no's, but we never gave up, because we felt that it was important to have a medium, a platform where our young people can see positive images of themselves. And that's why you will never catch us showing war, poverty, crime, or things that are not elevating on our platforms. And this is not because this is not part of our reality, but because we feel that the mainstream media does enough of that, and we want it to be a media with a purpose, towards transforming society and showing the best of us, the best, to not just elevate us, but to inspire us to aspire for greater levels of success and for a greater version of ourselves. Now, this is what a lot of us actually always talk about when we complain about the media, not showing elevating stories, but we wanted to be the media that corrected that narrative. And it is why, we focus on a message that, we think will not only help us to see as a mirror, to see a good image of us, but to also help our brand. Because we think about it, the brand of our community as Black people has been really tainted. And I remember once, as a mom, my daughter came back home, and she said to me, "Mom, I don't want to be Black." And we had to have a conversation. And the reason she didn't want to be Black is because everything she saw around her that represented us as a people was not elevated, was not something that made her feel proud. And I began to show her some of the things that, could make her proud. And eventually she left that conversation feeling empowered, feeling inspired. But imagine if this was kind of magnified on the TV screens, on the magazines, in different mediums that, our young people were exposed to. Now, who decide whose story, whose voice, and whose image gets amplified, whose pain gets platform, and whose joy we celebrate? It is the media, the person that controls the media. The most prominent contemporary stories of Black males in the media relates to Black Lives Matter. And the BLM movement, arose after a series of events involving, mistreatment or mishandling of, or violence towards African Americans, which the police and other authorities have failed to kind of take seriously. Now, the most prominent among them was the movement that started after George Zimmerman, a white adult, was acquitted for shooting Trayvon Martin, and a young African-American teenager who just went out to buy snacks. He just went to buy snacks and was shot. He was unarmed. And we also have many, is it Michael Brown in Ferguson? Even here in Canada, we've heard of a few stories, but most recently, the one that shook the whole world was the story of that has brought about a whole complete new movement, which I think has kind of not only sparked a movement in the community, but also helped a lot of corporations to now, consider to rethink their diversity agenda. And we now see that is actually, going back. A lot of people are going back. And this is a George Floyd killing. A lot of companies and organizations are now trying to renege on their promises, which from what we saw from Wendy's presentation is much needed, even more today than ever before. Now, during a vigil with the Browns and the civil rights activist Al Sharpton in New York, the Browns family lawyer questioned what he called public habit of vilifying Black children while putting whites on a pedestal. And this is something that I think as owners of media platforms, as people, as a community, as a global community, we have to take more seriously because each time that you see an article or news story or something out there, it is reflective of whoever it is that's telling the story. It is reflective of their mindset, of how exposed they are, of their prejudice, of their what they really, stand for, what they hate, what they like. So you cannot divide the storyteller from the story. And that's why it is very important that we as media people, even as regular people, we educate ourselves, because sometimes I feel that, we are very complacent in reacting to news stories that do not represent us the way we want to be represented. For instance, I remember a few years ago when CNN International came to do a story on myself and my partner. It was a half-hour special on CNN International, and they were here for a few days. They followed us to our studio home. They followed us to festivals. I mean, wherever we went, they went with us, and it was like a few days of capturing our story, how we started from immigrants just coming to Canada to not only, starting a TV program, but creating various platforms. And I remember getting calls from, my country, Nigeria, where I come from. And my friends were like, "Oh my God, there is some commercials going on CNN, and it's saying from living in their car and sleeping on the floor of their office to building a media empire." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Oh." So they chose to focus on the sleeping in the car and on the floor of the office. And that's what everybody took. Like, okay, the part about building a media empire was there in the sentence, but the focus was so much on the sleeping on the car and on the floor of the office that it took away from what they were trying to say. And being someone from a minoritized community, what that says is almost like you're not deserving of where you are. And it's just like, "Oh, I can't believe you did this," kind of, thing. Or, sometimes people say to you, "Oh, you're quite smart for a Black person," or, "Oh, wow." So it's that kind of a thing. And the story I always tell is when Michael Jean became Governor General, and one of the headlines says, "From the ghetto of Port-au-Prince to Parliament Hill." When I saw that headline, my heart broke, because I'm like, this is the first time Canada is getting a Black female Governor General. It's supposed to be a happy moment, a celebratory moment. Yes, she's from Haiti, but what has the word ghetto have to do with her becoming Governor General? Just celebrate the fact that she became Governor General and just leave the ghetto and leave all that out of it at that particular moment. So you see how sometimes there's not, it's not, I won't say it's a conscious agenda, but it's an agenda all the same. And this agenda is almost like it has created a societal mindset about a group of people. And sometimes it's not just about us as Black people. It could be about women or other groups that are often, excuse me, or other groups that are often, marginalized. Now, how does the medium shape the message? Now, when the gatekeepers of media all look the same or think the same, we end up with the same disguised truth all the time. That's why we must not only change the script, we must also own the studios, own our stories, own the narratives. What we actually, decide to do when we diversify the storytellers, we diversify the storylines. Now, these days, we see a lot of efforts to include minorities. We see a lot of ads with a lot of, people from diverse communities. But sometimes these things fall flat because the people behind the productions are still not representative of society. So, for instance, recently, a U.S. jeans brand, American Eagle, is facing accusations that its recent ad campaign featuring Sydney Sweeney is tone deaf and promotes eugenics theory. This advertising campaign features the blonde, blue-eyed actress in a denim. And, it's the tagline of this ad says, Sydney Sweeney has great genes. Think about that. So what are you trying to say? I mean, I know they're playing on the word genes, but that didn't rub off well on, a lot of communities because you're saying she has great genes. I mean, we get it, you're talking about genes, but that that didn't sit well. And when actually we got to investigate more, found out that this company just fired their DEI department. So they just fired almost everybody there. And the people that, put this commercial together are people that do not understand what it means to speak in a language that includes everyone. And we've seen these kinds of errors with many other brands, be it, McDonald's in the past with some of their commercials. I've seen a few commercials where I'm like, oh my God, why does it have to be the Black person that's running? Okay, like there's this commercial on a running stomach. Okay, it's a Black person that has to be the one that's running and, or acting funny, or they like to portray certain, ethnic group in a position of where they're like servants or serving or in roles that are either demeaning or embarrassing. And many companies think that, just representing. So representation is very complicated. Yes, I'm seeing myself more on the screen, but how am I seeing myself? I'm seeing a version of myself that is not inspiring. And we've heard that you cannot be what you do not see. And what does that do to our children? It gives them very little to work with. So I actually am very passionate about what I do. And I started producing, not because it's easy, but because I wanted to move from being a subject of someone else's narrative to being the author of the kinds of stories that I want to tell and to bring diversity to the screen and to tell those kinds of stories that I yearn to see. Now, my new film, The Life Coach, which features a diverse cast, I mean, everyone sees themselves in that movie. It's about, navigating internal battles, societal expectations, and the need for healing. It is about mental health, self-acceptance, and the power of authentic human connections. And it's not just a film, it is a statement that we're not at trauma and that we're worthy, in spite of how layered or how multifaceted or nuanced we are. Our stories are still very powerful, and we must not just only own them, but be proud of them. I remember, when I was trying to, distribute this film, it was quite challenging because of the fact that, it was featuring a Black lead. Now, what are the challenges of inclusion? Let's talk about that for a minute. Now, because when you think about it critically, inclusion is not always welcome. It's not something that is often given. It's something that sometimes we have to ask for, or we have to call attention of the people who are in charge to see that they have left out certain facets of society. Sometimes it comes at a cost. I've often even experienced racism, even in spaces I helped to create. I've had doors shut, questions about market viability of my film, and people ask, will this film resonate with the mainstream? To which I say, we are the mainstream, because mainstream describe what's viewed by most people in society as normal. Who are the people that actually decide what is mainstream? Think about it. It is a minority that decides what is mainstream. So who are the people that you want to be in the mainstream? You ask yourself that. And so whoever owns a medium makes that decision. And that's why it's very important to have more representation on behind the screen, behind the stories, the people that are there owning the platform, owning the studios, and doing all those things. Whoever owns the mediums, I'll say, controls the message. Our voices matter, our stories matter, and our medium must reflect that. When I was trying to distribute my film, they said, this film, people are not going to come out to watch it because not only is it not mainstream, it has a black lead. I was told to my face that films with black leads are hard to sell. I was like, oh my God. And I said to myself, I already made a film with a black lead, and I believe in this story. I believe that it is mainstream. I want to focus on the issues that are in this story that affects us all. And I said, okay, you know what? Um, I will not give up. I would keep bugging them until they say yes. And I did all I could and pull all the strings that I could pull together with my amazing distributor. And we got this film in Cineplex, Landmark, and Imagine across Canada. And our premiere was sold out. And that sent a message. Our premiere was sold out. We're sold out in a few cities, and we did 3 weeks in some theaters. The same week when the Minecraft movie was actually in theaters, we were in theaters, and we actually had sold out premieres. And we went on for a week, and then added another week. Because how it works in theaters is that if you do well the first week, they add another week. If it does well the second week, then they add a third week. So we did 3 weeks in some theaters, and that was unprecedented. And that's because I believed in the story, the universality of the story. The fact that this story was mainstream, I already told myself that it was, because I know that this story was relatable to anyone, no matter where you're from or what, religion or gender or what. So I pushed it. Now, what can we do? What must we do so that we can move forward? Now, here are 3 things I would like to recommend. The first thing is to create without permission. Because of the challenges I faced trying to distribute the Life Coach film, I thought the next film I make, should I make sure that my lead is now Black? Yes, I had to ask myself that question. Because of the commercial viability of the work that you want to make, right? You want to make money. But I said to myself, no. And that's when I started asking myself, who actually defines what mainstream is? The people with the medium. So, and today I must say that, you can create your own medium. Recently, a filmmaker in Nigeria called Omonioboli, she's done a lot of big movies. Actually, one of our films premiered at TIFF a few years ago. She's making her movies and putting them straight on Netflix, and she's getting millions of views. So who said you need permission, to be mainstream? Some platforms don't even have up to 1 million viewers. She's getting millions of views. And then whether it is a podcast from your bedroom, a film shot on your phone, or social media series, own your narrative. Do not be afraid to be authentically you. Do not be afraid to tell the stories that resonate with you, the stories that you think should be told, the story that reflects society, because you think that it's not going to be viable. And if one way is not viable, think of another way. And by the way, my film just did a 3-week theatrical tour in the US. We went to LA. We sold out in LA. Our premiere was sold out in LA, sold out in Dallas. It was sold out in Dallas 2 weeks before the screening. They added a second theater, and we did more than a week in some of the cities. And we went to New York, to Atlanta, to District of Columbia, Maryland, and to many towns in the US, and it did well. And this is a film that was dismissed because of a Black lead. So the second thing I would say is collaborate with purpose. When we ask for equity, when we ask for representation, when we ask for diversity, it's something that we cannot do by ourselves. It takes collaborative effort, and we need everyone on the table, the marginalized and the ones that are not marginalized. We all have to speak the same language. Inclusion is not just about representation, it's about access. We must, create pipelines for others, mentorship opportunities to mentor upcoming talent and open doors behind us. You don't have to be famous to be a bridge. We just need to make sure that we're creating opportunities, especially for our young people, to not just be, in the media, but to give them access that they need. Access is everything. And I think when you look at what we lack as members of minoritized communities, it is access, opportunities. It is just being able to not just be on the table, but having what we need to succeed when we now get to the table. Think about it, because many people have been given a seat on the table and they failed because of lack of access. They didn't have the information. They didn't have the mentorship. They didn't have all they needed to succeed. And the third thing is, which is the last, is call out and calling. We must channel systems, yes, but also call people into conversations. Inclusion is not a fight against each other. It is a movement toward each other. I'll say that again. Inclusion is not a fight against each other. It is a movement towards each other. Let's think about that. Even when you are an activist trying to advocate, we have to think about the fact that we have to work with people to make this work. And we have to speak a language that they understand. Because sometimes we're speaking, but they're not hearing us because we're not speaking the language that they understand. So let's keep that in mind. And anytime we see things that do not represent, even if it's not you, if you're a man and you see something that does not represent women well, do not share it, do not comment on it, call it out. We have to speak out because, see, as I say, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And there's also a saying that those who bear the mark of great pain are never really free because they still owe a debt to those who still suffer. And we all actually bear a mark of great pain. You may say, well, I'm not Black, so it doesn't concern me when they're showing Black people in a way that's not, dignified or elevating. But you may be a woman, and it's a time when they're going to showcase a woman in a way that's not, dignifying, or it's not elevating, that's not respectful. Or you may be from another group, but guess what? If it hasn't reached you yet, it's coming to you, because the thing with these things is what we allow comes to us. So as a society, if we allow hatred is coming to us. Everybody's doorstep is going to come. If we allow injustice is coming. It's coming to you. If it's not today, it's going to come tomorrow. Now, in closing, I'll tell a story. There's a story of the cracked pot. There was an old woman in a village. If you've never visited a village in Africa, you should. It is beautiful. It is the most organic place with beautiful trees, flowing streams, birds singing. You can still see the stars and the moon. It's such a beautiful thing. I really can't wait for my kids to see the village. But this woman in the village, she used to go to fetch the water with a clay pot. And the clay pot had a hole. And every day she came back. By the time she got home, the clay pot was half empty. And there was this young boy that kept on watching this woman, for a couple of years. And one day he went to the old woman and said, Mama, I noticed that every day you go to fetch water, and when you come back, by the time you get home, the pot is almost empty. And he said, why don't you get a new clay pot, or why don't you repair it? And she said, by the way, have you noticed the beautiful flowers on the side of the road? I planted them. And, knowing I have this crack in my pot, every day when I take this walk, the water that's falling from the hole, the crack in the pot, is watering this garden, and this beautiful garden that you see that has sprung up, that is looking so beautiful, is because of my cracked pot. It's because of the hole in the pot. And what do we learn from this story? We all carry cracks. We all leak in some way. But in the hands of someone with vision, even flaws can become instruments of beauty, of purpose. Our pain can become someone else's healing. Our voice, no matter how silenced or cracked, can grow flowers. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how society looks at you. You're still a very important part of society. And as media people, or as people with platforms, even like we're having this event today, this is a platform. And I must thank Lady Shola and her team, because you've created a platform where this these beautiful flowers can be watered. And I want us to actually be custodians, to be allies in this work towards equity, not just in the media space, but in everything that we do. So to every leader and every change maker that's actually, this Zoom meeting or that will watch this, on a later date, I would say to you, your journey may not be perfect, but it is powerful. It is powerful. Let your cracks pour into something meaningful. Let your presence nurture what is possible. And let your story build community, build a world that we all want to live in, a world that, actually elevates what looks like us, a world where I am mainstream, you are mainstream, and we're all mainstream together, a world where it will no longer be, would they watch the story? A world where we'll be asking the question, why is this not our story? I mean, why is my story not your story? Because as I said, this is a movement not against each other, but toward each other. Thank you so much. At this point, I'd like to entertain questions, but it's been a pleasure sharing my heart, the topic that I'm really passionate about.
Wow. I can tell, like, I could feel the passion gushing out of the screen. Like, I used to think I was a fast writer, and then I stopped halfway. I couldn't take notes anymore because, like, you were dishing out so much wisdom that everyone could relate with, you know. And I liked the 3 points you raised. Create without permission, collaborate with purpose, and call out. Like, there's so much wisdom to unpack from all of those, and I would not dabble into that because if I do, we're not going to live here today. The passion is raw. Like, I could feel it. I could feel it. Just like me, somebody said, thank you, Patricia. I'm so proud of you. I totally missed to watch the life coach when it premiered. My question is, where can we watch it now?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. So it's done the theatrical rounds in Canada, so it's not coming back to theaters. But so this actually tomorrow at the Toronto Nollywood International Film Festival at the Yorkwood Theatre, the film is going to be showcased and has been nominated for 3 awards at this festival. So Yorkwood Theatre in North York at I think it's at 4:30 p.m. So you can catch it there. Otherwise, you just wait. You're going to see it on Netflix or Prime to be very soon. Or if you can make it out tomorrow, you can see it at the Yorkwood Theatre,
Yeah,
Yorkwood Library Theatre.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was going to ask if we should expect to see it soon, either on Netflix or Amazon Prime, but you read
Yes.
my mind and you already answered that. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. There's a question here that says, can you share some ways you were able to support your daughter so people can learn from it? You talked about your daughter's story when she came back and said she didn't want to be Black anymore. So how were you
Yeah.
able to help her? Because a little child may feel it and not say it out loud, but for a child like yours, there is that trust, there is that friendship that I can confide in mom. This is what is on my mind, and I don't want to be Black anymore. So what were the steps you took? How did
Yeah.
you walk her through that so that we can learn from it?
Yeah, it was a very difficult, thing because we live in a predominantly, white neighborhood, and my daughter was the only Black kid in her entire grade. So, so it was difficult because I mean, we had a few conversations about the hair thing where she wanted her hair to be like other people, and then we had this conversation. But I first of all acknowledged, that I could relate and understand what she was going through. And I told her about times when I was the only Black person in many spaces. I told her about what it meant to be different. And I said, everybody does feel different. And I made her understand that even though everybody in her class is like not Black. Some of them are from other races. Some of them could be, South Asian, or there's some of them from other countries. And I said they're all different in their own ways. And I wanted her to be proud of where she comes from, her heritage. I shared about some great things about our culture and who she was, the kind of family she was from. And I told her that she has to celebrate herself, because being different is not a bad thing. It's being unique, to celebrate her uniqueness and to love who she is. And I just had this basic conversation the best way I knew. And it wasn't that hard, because by the time I finished, and I told her about, our work in the community, what we're doing, and the fact that when I came to Canada, I came here as an immigrant, with nothing, with not much. And I came here with $2,000. I mean, I think some people came here with I came with $2,000 in my pocket here, and I told her, now look what we've been able to do in spite of everything. And I told her, you can become anything you want to become. Look at us, where we are. And she was very happy. I think my kids still have the struggles. Even though she's in high school now, the same daughter, she's in grade 12. She just started grade 12. Just last week, we're having conversations. She said, Mom, my friend left the school. I'm having trouble making friends, maybe because I'm Black. And we had to have this conversation at another level, because she's now a teenager. She's 17 now. And I have to say to her, you have to not just wait for people to be your friend. You go and try to make friends. Don't wait and say,
Absolutely.
because, I said, the best way to make a friend is to be a friend. I said, try reaching out. And so these conversations are continuing. And when she gets her first job, it may be the same. But I think as people of color, these are the challenges that we face. They're real challenges. I'm tired of just talking about it. I mean, I found myself in spaces where I'm the only Black, and sometimes when I speak, I'm actually I can hear my accent, and sometimes when I hear my accent, I start to feel a little bit of self-esteem issues, and I have to remind myself that my voice matters, and that I deserve to occupy my space on these tables. And I've gotten better, but these are challenges that we have to continue to deal with, especially for our young people. But it's just having conversations and just inspiring them and helping them to see who they are and how important they are and their voices are in this society, even though we're minorities.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. There's one last question. I will call Lady Abba, because Lady Abba is all our mothers. I'm one of her sons. I'd like her to add a thought to that question. But before then, in the Q&A segment, there's a question for you that says, thank you and your partner for taking the lead to tell our stories. Like you say, whoever owns the media controls the message. It's not an easy space. How do you determine that the organization trying to provide funding does not have an ulterior motive? And like Denzel Washington and Spike Lee say in their most recent movie, that not all money is good money. So how do you determine if an organization trying to provide funding, if they have an ulterior motive or not?
Yes, so this is really interesting, because I remember many years ago, I won't mention the funder, but they wanted to give us funding to do some work, and we came up with ideas, and they said, nobody wants to watch an elevating story about Africa. Don't you have any other stories, like because we want to showcase Africa in the way that people know it. So I said, but that's not all there is to our stories. And they insisted they didn't want this elevating story that we're trying to tell. So we said, no, we're not going to take the funding, because that's not what we're about. We actually said no to this funding opportunity. Yeah. So I think that we sometimes are a slave to the people that give us the money to tell our stories. And that's why we have to not only own our stories, but we have to own platforms. When we started this journey to own a 24-hour TV station, it wasn't easy, but we're passionate because, when you own your own platform, you control the narrative. We decided that we're not going to be showing war, crime, and poverty on our channel. But imagine if another set of people that had a different mindset, owned the platform and they wanted to exploit, the weakest part of us, to show us the weakest part of us. So we want to show the most elevating part of us. So I say that is very correct. But today is such a good time to be alive. Because when we started to write an article, we published over 20 titles in a Discover magazine series. We had 3 regularly scheduled magazines. I remember those days when we started in 2000, you will have to go to the library to do research, to write a story. But these days, everything's on the internet. And you will have to actually, the viewership, to get viewership, you had to actually reach out to people. But these days, you don't need to have a platform like a TV station or a magazine. You can reach out to people on your social media, and you can actually post things. So everybody can broadcast today. It's not the same. So you don't need anybody's permission. You don't need anybody's funding. If the funder is saying you must tell stories that showcase your community in a certain way, you don't want to, you don't have to. You can come straight from where you are and publish a podcast or put it on YouTube, straight to YouTube, and get viewership that's bigger than the TV station. So I would say that we can still control our narrative, and we don't need all the dollars. If the dollars is going to determine a narrative that's going to put us down as a people.
Wow, awesome. Thank you so much. So many, many, many wisdom shared, and thanks for sharing the story of your daughter, because I'm sure there are people on this call that can relate, right? And thanks for being human even on the stage, right? You're not trying to color code anything. You're giving us as it is. Thank you so much. Lady Abar, so to that initial question, I'd like you to add your thoughts, and then we can take a short break and come back for the next segment.
I do want to start by saying thank you so very much. Oh my goodness, that was a lot. I don't know if you're seeing the chat, but there's a lot going on. I'm typing all those quotes, so many quotes that you said. Thank you so much. I wanted to share a story around about your daughter. I met a young man, a young Ghanaian boy. He was actually born in Halifax. And he talked about how he always felt less than. And, for summer holidays, parents just decided, let's go to Ghana. And they went to Ghana for the very first time. And around him, he saw a lot of people that looked like him. And there was never a mention of less than, racist slurs, anything. And that really boosted his confidence. That's one. I have a girlfriend. She's a Nigerian married to a Jamaican. They went home for vacation in Lagos State. And the man could not believe it, what he saw. It was supposed to be a week vacation. They ended up staying for 2 weeks. To cut the long story short, they now live in Lagos because the difference was just too much. What am I saying in essence? I know that some of us came here to give, better life or whatever we call it for our children. Take them home sometimes. Let them know their heritage. Let them know their people. Let them know who they are. It would help their self-confidence. And of course, get a mentor. Just so you know, Patricia, there's so many people that want you to mentor them. I don't know how many people you can mentor at the same time, but we will reach out to you. So let them get mentors. Let them know their culture. Let them know who they are. It's very, very important. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I just got a business idea, which is selling mentorship form, and the product will be Patricia because she's the one that will be doing the mentorship. Yeah, but 5 minutes into your session, somebody was already asking for mentorship, So if you would like to drop in the chat how you can be reached, and you're coming around tomorrow, right?
Yes, I'm coming to the
Yes.
event tomorrow.
Yeah, so
Yes.
if you guys want to meet Patricia, please come around tomorrow. And then you can have the pleasure of chatting with her in person, asking a follow-up question. She might not have all the time. You can imagine that there's so many of us. I will be waiting to meet with her as well tomorrow. So just come around, see her. But Patricia, if you want to drop an email, a website, please feel free. That
Yeah.
the chat is buzzing with so many you know
Yeah, we'll do.
emojis for you. Yeah.
Will do.
All
And
right.
you can come watch my film tomorrow at the Toronto Nollywood International Film Festival at the Yorkwood Library. It's going to be screening at the festival. So I think it's around 4 p.m. So yeah. And then I'll be at the award show after that. Coming straight to the award show. Yeah. So yeah. So I'll put my info in the chat.
All right. So
Yes.
let's wrap up this session. We're supposed to wrap up this session 26 minutes ago. But I mean, it's a session that we can all relate with. So we will just take about 5 minutes break and move right into the next session. Thank you so very much, Miss Patricia. It
Yeah,
was a
thanks for having
pleasure
me.
having you.
Mhm.
And yeah, we would see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Awesome.